Hello, I'm Marshall Goldsmith. I'm going to briefly introduce myself. I'm an executive educator. I love to give talks, traveling all around the world, speaking about leadership. I've been ranked #1 leadership thinker in the world twice. I'm an executive coach, and I'm just retiring from coaching. It's something I've done for many, many, many years. And also, I'm an author. I've done 3 New York Times bestsellers and published a lot of books that have been read around the world. Also, I have a wonderful group called 100 Coaches. A few years ago, I was in a program and someone asked me to talk about my heroes. Aisha Bursell, a wonderful person. Who were your heroes? My heroes were kind and generous people who were great teachers, and she said, you should be more like them. I said, great idea. I decided to adopt 15 people, teach them all I know, and the only price is when they get old, they have to do the same thing. I made a little selfie video and put it on LinkedIn. It turned out to be the most widely viewed video ever on LinkedIn. And I was shocked to find out over 18,000 people applied to be adopted. And now we have about 200 people in our 100 coach program. I'm good at math, but I kind of lost this count on that one. So we have about 200 people, and these are amazing people, CEOs, athletes, TV people, coaches, thinkers, and 2 of the wonderful representatives of the group are with me today, Carol Kauffman and Magda Mook. And what we're going to be talking about today in LinkedIn Live is we're going to be talking about coaching in the new world, some of the changes. And I'm going to briefly introduce Magda and Carol, and then we're going to get started. I'll start with Carol. Carol is a wonderful person, a PhD. She's an associate professor at Harvard. She started the Institute for Coaching. A wonderful person, has been ranked #1 a leadership coach in the world, and Thinkers 50, one of the top 8 overall coaches in the world. And also Magda Mook. Magda is the CEO of ICF, the world's largest coaching organization, an organization with 37,000 members from 142 countries. She's been ranked the most influential coach in the world in terms of leading a global organization. So not only that, are they very distinguished people, these are also just 2 wonderful human beings. So I'm very honored to be associated with both Carol Kauffman and Magda Mook. And let's get started. I'm going to ask you all some questions to begin. And let's talk about coaching in the new world. What are some of the challenges, issues? Let's get started with, we'll start with Magda. Magda, what are some of your reflections for coaching in the new world?
Well, thank you, Marshall, for the invitation to the show, of course. And hi, Carol. So good to be here with you as well. Our new world is really new, and it's changing. Not that it wasn't changing before, but it's really changing on a daily basis with a lot of terrifying news. So I think coaching is having a new calling in these times. It is going to be needed more than ever. It's going to be needed for those who are on front lines now. It's going to be needed during the recovery. And I think that the impact of our situation right now will be lasting in our societies for a long, long time. So I think that there is a great opportunity for coaching to be supporting everybody who are dealing with this situation right now.
Okay, Carol, what are some of your initial reflections?
Well, I'll focus more right now on coaching in pandemic times. And the thing there is, what can we do like right now? So I think right now as a coach, what's really important when you're talking with people is to emanate calm, because we all have neurology systems. We're all pinging off each other's mirror neurons. And if we emanate calm, that can be contagious. The other one is everyone needs psychological safety now. And last, we can't get to certainty. We're living in uncertainty, but we can get to safety and centeredness. So I think those are our goals now.
Very, very good. One reflection I've had is the importance of basically being present. I mean, I'm a Buddhist, and I find it is very, very difficult to be present in the new world. Now, can someone put on the no sound button? It's very hard to be present. It's very hard to be mindful, because it's just so much distraction is going on. What's happening now is so big that it can just become over consuming. It's tempting just to sit there and look at that screen and watch how many people died today in various countries. So I think a real great challenge today is the importance of presence, of mindfulness, of being able to block out all that noise. And Carol, as you said, really focus not on what I cannot do, because there's a lot of things right now none of us can do. Focus on what we can do. Focus on the big things. What is the difference we can make? So let's go back to Magda. Magda, if you had to look at one thing here's one thing I think coaches can do that would make a valuable contribution to the world as we know it. What might you suggest?
There are many, many things that coaches can do. And back to what Carol said is to for themselves to be calm, to be mindful, to take care of themselves. We know that coaches are so willing to help others that they don't take good care of themselves. The burnout is a real thing. And I think especially in times like today, coaches need to resource themselves in order to be able to resource their clients. It may be almost like, charging your batteries now because this service is coaching service is requested now, but it will be for the future as well, as I was talking. So making sure that the coaches take good care of themselves and are able to emanate that calm and mindfulness and presence. I think that that's one thing that coaches can do for themselves.
Excellent point. I'm going to give an example from my own life, and then Magda, come back to you. Some simple things, like one of the things I talked about is being mindful. And, I really found I do a great job of being mindful until I forget. I forget to be mindful. So one of the things I've learned is I literally have to remind myself to be mindful, because the world we're in is so distracting. It's easy to forget to be mindful. Simple things like, am I drinking water? I have to remind myself to drink enough water. I just, again, forget. So one of the things I found that's been helpful to me is just, we all need help and structure, and we all grossly underestimate our need for help and structure. So I think it's very important for us to really try to provide that structure in our lives. One of the challenges of being at home and not having some kind of externally imposed structure is it's very easy to let things just disappear. So very important for us to have that kind of the structure we need as coaches to take care, Magda, as you said, to take care of ourselves. Carol, what are some of the things that you think coaches can do right now that might be of help?
Well, picking up first of all for a moment on what Magda said about taking care of yourself, one thing that's very clear is you cannot give, not have. So if you are not taking care of yourself, you're really not going to be able to help others truly be able to take care of themselves. The other thing we really can do now is create connection. I'm amazed that a lot of the CEOs I'm talking to of multi-billion-dollar companies are calling me back. They're texting. I'm sending them jokes. We really need connection now. And that's why, Marshall, some of the calls you've been doing in this are so unbelievably crucial.
Thank you. And I think you're right. Number one, people are lonely. Many people are living by themselves or perhaps with one or two other people. I'm living with my wife and that's it. I mean, I see my daughter and my grandchildren and my son by FaceTime or on the phone, but it's not exactly the same. So in many ways, we are alone. Number two, Carol, back to your point, there's an old saying called "it's lonely at the top." Well, it has never been lonelier at the top, even before this happened. It's never been lonelier at the top. With the advent of massive social technology, whatever you say, is broadcast to the entire world. It's incredibly lonely at the top. And today it's really lonely. People have to be so sensitive about anything that they say. It can be taken out of context. The stakes are so high in a time of crisis like this. So I think for the coaches listening, just to realize that. just to realize our clients may be big deals, but they're human beings just like the rest of us, and it can be lonely for them. So if you look at coaching, let's talk about Carol's issue that you brought up of maintaining great connections with the most important people in your life. Amanda, what are some of your reflections on how coaches can help their clients do this, maintain those important connections?
Talking about it and raising the awareness is, of course, the first thing. And I've been reading some articles about the fact that this pandemic may be extremely difficult on people who may already feel lonely and maybe disconnected. So one things that coaches can do is to model, like you just said, you are in contact with your family, and reach out to others, and that being clients or being their fellow colleagues in the profession. As you know, many ICF members belong to chapters, and our chapters are just absolutely phenomenal in creating communities for their peer coaches and also for people in the communities that may be in need of that connection that otherwise may exist, but they are not taking advantage of it simply because they are just not thinking about it. It goes the same for the workplace. You know, I have a staff of about 60, and now for the third week we are working remotely. But much to what Carol suggested just a second ago, there are ways to stay connected in the work environment, but also in that community environment. So we just had Bring Your Pet to Work Zoom meeting, so that to add more of that sense of community and the sense that there are always people that you can lean on when you need it, because we all gonna need it. It may be just in the different times. I think that awareness would be very important at this point.
You know, Magda and Carol, you've both been on calls that I do. And I have these calls with people, and we're very blessed to have people from Italy, from Spain, from India, from different parts of the world, different parts of the United States. And back to community, I found it so valuable to listen to people who are in Milan, who are in Madrid, who are in China, who are in India, who are experiencing this in so different ways, to really get an understand of more of a global feeling. What's been some of your reactions to, because both of you have been on these calls, to hearing people from around the world? Let's start with Carol. Carol, what have been some of your reactions?
Well, a few things. I think that what we've seen is there's a wave of people first overcoming denial and then trying to get to reality. But the big thing, and maybe I can talk about it a little later, is there was a poll in the Boston Globe that said 20% of the population now is the most frightened they've ever been in their lives, and 20% more are as frightened as they've ever been. And so again, I think all over the world, people are working with that and managing their fear. And again, I think things like this connection and safety are critical. So I'm seeing this morning, it was Kazakhstan, Brazil, China. People sounded remarkably similar at this point. They didn't in the beginning, but they do now.
Excellent. Magda, what are some of your reflections? You're from Poland yourself, so what are some of your reflections to just being able to contact people from around the globe?
Well, the connectivity, the fact that we can connect is just absolutely remarkable. Couple of days ago, maybe 3 for now, there was a fascinating conversation of 5 coaches from China who were talking, well, Asia Pacific, I should say, and they were talking about how they managed through. They are ahead of many other parts of the world with fighting the virus, and that was just super emotional and very interesting to hear how different people reacted differently. How, as much to Carol's point, at one point they did come together in the same understanding of their reality, and now they are gradually, very, very slowly, trying to rebound and regroup and rebuild. So there was a voice of hope coming from that community, and And just knowing that, yes, we all are all in a sense of hurt and fear. I think it is trauma, no matter how deeply we are touched, or how physically or mentally, emotionally we're touched. So having that conversation and being able to see that we are not in it alone, that there are a lot of people thinking along the same lines, and there are a lot of people who are willing to create an opportunity to help and support each other's and the communities and society. It's just heartwarming.
Wonderful. Wonderful. You know, I'm writing a new book now called The Earned Life. And in my book, I talk about community. And I talk about, in the old days, basically, we didn't have a lot of choices in life. You were brought up, you lived where you were brought up, your religion was pretty much set, whether you were married or not was pretty much set. You didn't have choices. And now we live in a world of constant choices. And with that world has come increased loneliness, increased isolation, increased depression. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about in the book is we have the opportunity now to, in essence, create our own community. One thing I love about our 100 coaches is, to me, it feels like a community. It's a group of nice people just trying to help each other. And it's nice to be in an environment where, and we have some rules, no guilt, no money, no expectations. It's nice to be in an environment where you feel like you're part of a little community and everybody's trying to help you. And you don't have to show off, and you don't have to prove you're better than everybody else. And it's just been very positive. Any thoughts, Carol, you would have about encouraging people to kind of think about what community would I like to be a part of and create for myself?
You know, part of you blipped out. I didn't quite hear the question.
Yes, thinking about the concept of community. Number one, you are a member of a couple of 3 different communities. And then number 2, suggestions you would have for the coaches online about how can they create their own communities?
Oh, really important. We've been talking about it's social distance, but it's not emotional distance. In fact, a lot more people are finding themselves having more emotional closeness. So, for example, one of the things that's been great is, Marshall, you've had open community times. At the Institute of Coaching, instituteofcoaching.org, we're putting out a free masterclass in resilience for everyone. And inspired by you, Marshall, we're now having open office hours, open Zoom at 11 o'clock on Mondays and Thursdays. And it really, really helps to be connected to people. And virtual groups are crucial. Office group cocktail hours are crucial, but I have found I actually feel more connected now. And I think it's because of these communities that are reaching out and reaching to each other.
It's wonderful. Magda, any reflections from you?
In addition to what Carol said, I think it is interesting that some people are taking time right now to create new communities, or to create closer communities with people that we know but we barely know. So bringing together just the casual acquaintances to just learn about what's going on, to spend more time that normally we maybe not choose to spend so much time with. So I think that there is an interesting concept of reaching out beyond maybe a comfort zone or some kind of a complete randomness to build something new that may very well last for much longer. And also, to add to what Carol said, it is important to remember that not everybody is good with technology. So some of the training, some of the support of how do you operate Zoom, how do you do Skype, how do you do YouTube, LinkedIn live programs like this one. This is something that is also important that we offer to each other and bring others along with us. Carol already mentioned the great resource for the Institute of Coaching, and ICF does have a landing page. It's coachfederation.org/we care. And there are tons of resources also, including the calendar of events that our chapters are putting together, that again, everybody can call in and become a part of that community, no matter where you live and no matter what the issue you want to discuss might be on a given day.
You know, Magda, I love your comment about we're all learning together. I was just on a conference call with about 45 very sophisticated people. It was about how to use a new technology developed by a friend, Alex Osterwalder. And I would say at least 30 of us were completely lost during most of the call. I was. So, at least 3/4 of the audience was completely lost. I mean, they had no clue what he was talking about. And so I think it's just learn as you go. We're all learning. And by the way, now I'm going to make another apology about learning technology. I have no idea how we're going to do questions here right now. So I'm just kind of learning as I go. If anyone is listening that can help me, if you could read to us perhaps some questions people have, or if any of the listeners have questions. We've got two of the top coaches in the world, and Magda and Carol here. Happy to try to help you if we can. Any questions or reflections from the people listening right now that you'd like to share with us? So Justin, can you hear me? Well, this is a good learning experience.
Contact you.
Okay, I've got a good idea. This is for the three of us. And again, we're all learning as we go. Why don't we do this? Why don't Carol and Magda and I will be a facilitator? Why don't we all agree to meet again and sometime down the road? And we're going to do a session where all we do is deal with questions, ideas from the audience, and just have an interactive dialogue with as many people as we can. Now, can I recruit Magda? Can I recruit you to do this?
Absolutely.
Carol, can I recruit you
I
to
just
do
want
this?
to say yes, but I see a bunch of questions coming in that I could read if you don't have them.
I can't see them. So Carol, you're in charge of reading questions and then
and then
see,
answer
Marshall,
them.
this is a power of delegation.
Carol, go for it, Carol. You're in charge. Let's do a few questions.
Okay. Great. So the question is, can we advise on the need for empathy and to improve and connect with teams? So Magda and Marshall, do you want to take that on?
Magda, why don't you do empathy?
So absolutely, I think that this is something that we all are looking for right now, and need for ourselves. So I think that this is something that we can connect with our own self with the help of a coach or otherwise as coaches, and offer that calm empathy to others rather than to create the panic, and just giving ourselves grace to be vulnerable and giving ourselves grace to be anxious at times, and recognize the same in the other person, that either the colleague, family, or a client. So this is definitely a time where we can reach out and offer that gift to others.
Okay.
Marshall, do you want to say something? About empathy?
I'm going to delegate this from you, Carol. How about teams? Why don't you do teams?
Basically, I have been working with a number of leaders and really encouraging them to have a lot of team meetings, but in particular to emanate more warmth than they typically think to do, because warmth is also contagious and can create more of a sense of community. So it seems really simple, but your voice tone matters. And if you have urgent things to do, I mean, I've been on calls that are so grim, with a lot of Army people talking about really dark things. But I noticed that some of the great leaders still make time for a bit of chit chat and still make time to just create some warmth before they dive into the difficult material.
Yeah, I like that.
So
in our call, Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go on. I was just going to do another question because I didn't hear you. Finish talking?
Well, in all the calls that we've been doing with each other, I really like having Chester Elton on the calls at the end. He always has a positive thought to kind of wrap things up. So it's good to deal with serious issues because this is not all, peace-like and wonderfulness. On the other hand, it's also good to have a balance. So you do have the positive. So I really like that. In our calls, I really appreciate Chester being a member.
Okay,
Okay,
now,
Carol, back.
Okay, I love being the moderator. So a question came in from Mark Desmoreau. Is there a special strategy or tool to help bring people from a victim to a victor mindset and to kind of hit a reset button and keep moving forward? So I've had a lot of that, and Magda and Marshall, I'd love to hear from you first.
Magda, how about you?
I would say that between the three of us, you are much greater experts in that than I am with your experience and education. What I would say is that probably we need to make sure that the person is in the state of mind that they are open to that conversation. As we all know, there are different stages that we all have to go through. We can't just skip one of them. So just making sure that perhaps the first step is to deal with the trauma and at that very mental state before pivoting to helping a person to come from the victim to a victor. Victim to a victor. That's my contribution.
Yeah, and I want to just reinforce what you said. It's really hard because I've been on calls, and you've been on these calls, where one person says, I really want to look about being a great coach and how do I build people. And then the next person says, well, I just saw a truck go by with a bunch of coffins and put bodies into a ice skating rink, and one of them could have been my mother-in-law. Ugh. Well, it's very hard to maintain any sense of a balance of empathy in that environment where people are coming from such very, very different places, not only different countries, even in the United States, people are coming from different places. So I think what you're saying, number one, is very important. And number two, we have to face the reality. It's not easy. This is not easy because some people, even our calls, they've had friends just die. And some people haven't. So it's, again, back to a point Carol made, trying to be forgiving, not judgmental, being open to the fact that, everybody's coming from a different place here. And it's not that they're good or bad. It's just, this has hit people very different ways in very different places. Carol, any reflections from you before you go on to the next question?
Yes, well, some of my life that most of you don't know about is before I was a coach, I was a trauma specialist. And so this is sort of up my alley in a number of ways. So going from victim to survivor, I like the way Mark put it, victim to victor. So first of all, we all are in this firestorm of the virus, and some of us are sheltered and some of us are in the direct line of fire, and there's different things to do in each different place. But we've got more common denominators, which is how do we manage our fear and how do we stay in a solution mindset? So the big thing is when you're in crisis mode, true crisis mode, you want to be able to just literally think about what do I need to do? Who do I need to be in the next 5 minutes? For some people, it can be a whole day. And for other people, it's the next hour. And some people, it's the next 5 minutes. And for some, it's the next minute, which is what can I do? There is always something I can do to make myself feel a little more grounded and a little more safe. Now, if you're listening and you are actually sick and you have the virus and you're listening to us from that place, just really concentrate on taking the best care of yourself that you can. Breathe, hydrate. This is what we need to do if we're sick. This is what we need to do if we're okay and trying to take care of ourselves. But feel the fear, name it, and then park it. And you can have the fear, but coexist with it So in other words, put whatever you're feeling in the passenger seat, make sure you listen to it and take care of it. Don't let it be in the driver's seat.
Very good. Very good. And, I think we're going to wrap up because as you've probably gathered by now, this is the first time I've done this, so I really don't have a clue what I'm doing here.
We love you, Marshall.
Yes,
Thank you,
absolutely.
thank you.
And we're talking about learning together, so we're good. We're all good.
We're all in this together, so I have no idea exactly how long we're supposed to be on or what the hell we're supposed to be doing, but that's okay. That's okay. We're all learning together. So let me just wrap up by saying first, thanks to both of you. Both of you, you're wonderful human beings. I'm very, very proud to be associated with you in any way. I want to say to all the listeners, look, we're going to do our best here. I think that I feel a sense of obligation with people in the coaching community that I've had a very blessed life. I've been very fortunate, and now I'm in the give back phase. So, and I think, being able to deal with two of the great leaders in our field, is just an honor for all of us. And so, look, we're going to help in the best way we can. And one thing I always teach is feed forward. You ask for ideas, you listen, you do what works for you. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, just say thank you and ignore it. So we're not going to know if you do anything or not. So hopefully, my goal on this is maybe help a little people have a little better lives. And we're very blessed to be able to work with coaches who are in a position to help others. So maybe if we can help one of your coaches just a little bit, you can help a lot of other people. And so we make at least some contribution during these tough times. So the final thing I'd like to say is thank you to Carol. Thank you to Magda. You're wonderful people. I thank you for everyone who's listening right now. And I hope we've been of some at least some small value to you. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you.